My name is Kyle Balitz, and I am here with AstroLogicStarSystems. I decided to kick off this channel. A buddy of mine named Link wanted me to make a few videos, and since I'm in that sort of mood, I think now is the time to start it off. So, I first got into astrology, I'd say maybe like in high school, early high school, maybe late middle school. And what got me into astrology is the newspaper, like the Variety of Star Tribune. I don't know if anyone of you are familiar with that. But every time during reading break, everyone had to read something. So I'd always grab this paper and look at the horoscopes. And through that, I developed my interest in astrology. But through my, I don't know how much, maybe like 10 years, maybe 10 or so years of studying it, I think I got the basic gist of what astrology is. So, as this introductory video, I would like to explain in my own words what astrology is. Now, I'm a Capricorn, but I have a few personal planets, my Sun and Mercury in the 8th house, which represents Scorpio or Plutonic type things, mystery, and pretty much astrology. And I also have a 12th house moon, which is in Gemini, so I like to talk a lot. And I just got myself interested in it. And as a Capricorn, there's a little bit of Debbie Downer in us. We like to see what we can see with our own eyes. And I'm going to admit, I'm not a psychic. I'm just here to share a few things about what I learned. And as this YouTube channel represents, it's a system. So I love to study personalities. I love to learn about people in depth wise. So I see this not more as a psychic tool. I see it more as learning about people personality wise. And as a Capricorn, I think it's good to practice to question your world. Not all the time, because you got to give your mind a rest. You got to believe, you got to have some faith in something, but it's okay to be skeptical. And I'll admit, I study astrology because I'm interested in it. Doesn't mean I represent myself as a psychic, like I could predict your death, or I could predict success in wealth or marriage or anything like that. I'm more about explaining various life events that maybe happened in your life through astrology, and conflicts and difficulties and possibly your personality strengths and weaknesses and things like that. So before I go off on a tangent, that's my Gemini moon. And plus I have a Gemini Ascendant. So I might be a little scatterbrained. Okay, so more about astrology. What is it in a nutshell? Well, it's a system based on your birth date. And I have this book called The Language of Birthdays. Can I admit that it's real? I don't know, but it offers some insight, possibilities about who you are. Now, about astrology, there's one thing that I would like to point out. Like I said, everything is subjective. And with life, someone could tell you one thing and chatter about who you are, and you could say, yeah, I could see some of that, but that's just the human psyche. You find everything and bring all that information in. Anyone could find a little bit of something that they share or they find valid with what's given. And because of that, astrology is very, like I said, it is subjective. And it's based on what you think. But it's okay to study, to learn about, but it's good to be careful. So there's various systems for astrology. From the top of my head, there's the Western typical astrology where you use the wheel, like January is Capricorn, and it goes through Aries, through Pisces, and that's 12 different signs. But, you know, they talked about Bill Nye too, and Bill Nye claims that he, even though he is born in December, which would represent him as a Sagittarius, which I think fits him more. And sometimes you can find yourself like based on Vedic astrology, all the signs go backwards. So if you're like born in April through May, you would actually be an Aries. So if you're born in January to February, the sign would go backwards. So if you're a Capricorn, you'd be a Sagittarius. If you're a Sagittarius, you would actually be a Scorpio. If you're a Scorpio, you would be a Libra, and so on. And it basically just goes a sign backwards. And according to science, that's actually where the stars were aligned when you're actually born. Now, what I think about Vedic astrology, that's what it's called. It's Indian astrology. It's different. Indian astrology uses like a square chart, and they split it up like this way, I guess. And it looks like this or something like that. But what I think about Vedic astrology, my friend really hates Vedic astrology. He doesn't believe in it. Me, I'm more skeptical. I can see some reason in it because even though I see myself as a Capricorn, like I said, I have a lot of Sagittarius placements in my other planets. So maybe that makes me identify with some Sagittarius traits. But that's just the Gemini in me. You can identify with anything. But that's just me. So let me erase this quick. I'm sorry if this isn't really organized in a way that should be. It's like organized in my head, but when it ever comes out, it comes out sort of at random. Okay, so there's various astrologies. There's horary astrology and various two systems, but the main two systems is Western astrology, which is America, and Vedic, which is back and forth. I like to study like numerology and other pseudosciences. I know there's Celtic zodiac signs and Egyptian. I dabbled in a little bit of that, and Chinese astrology, which I could see some traits that I find in myself in that type of study. But for now, I'm focusing on the Western astrology because that's what I'm most knowledgeable in, and that's what I have been studying more. So, back to the newspaper. Sorry, back and forth. Do I really believe that all this personality traits, like for example, Aries, the day will be marked by quiet satisfaction? And I don't know about that. I don't really believe in this psychic readings anymore. Because in the end, you can be an Aries, but because there's like 9 different planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Mars, Venus, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. And even though Pluto was considered not a planet, I still believe it actually has a really significant influence, and I think it does represent the Scorpio. And in my opinion, since Virgo and Gemini and Libra and Taurus share the same planet, I actually really don't believe that. There probably is other planets out there that we haven't discovered. And maybe in the end, if Scorpio is so mysterious, they wouldn't find a planet that represents them. But in the end, maybe Venus or Taurus people or Virgo people are the more mysterious type. I mean, Virgo, I remember reading back, Virgo is supposed to represent by the planet Vulcan. That was supposed to be some invisible planet between the sun. Like it's sort of a combustion, which I'll talk more about that term later to the following videos. But for now, this is just an intro. I think what I'll talk about today is just a very brief intro of what astrology is, and I talked about that. So what I wanted to talk about next is what is Western astrology. So typically, we are born on a specific date, and why it's important to know your time, because when you are born, all these planets supposedly around you affected your character and who you are at birth. So Western astrology typically uses a circular chart. And with this circular chart, it's called a birth chart, natal chart, and it's divided into 12 sections. So why is it divided into 12 sections? Sorry, it's not actually perfectly in separate sections, but you get the gist. But it's divided in 12 sections because there's 12 different signs. And that's the typical sun sign that people were born in. But, like I said, there's other things that are important to consider. Because, for example, you can be an Aries sun, but you can have like a Mercury Taurus, that rather than being really quick-minded, you're more slow, methodical with how you think, more careful. So all these planets, when the day you're born, were in a certain section, under a specific sign, under a specific house. So, I didn't really do this really correctly in 12. And I also did it backwards. I should have prepared a little bit more after this, but as a Gemini, I just want to just do it sometimes rather than just sit and being careful. So anyway, I'll redo it. So basically the chart is divided in 12 sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And those represent the houses, and also they could represent the signs. So each sign, like I said, let me refresh on some of the terminology, and I can remember some of it, but I don't know the exact symbols. But there's specific symbols for each planet and also each sign. So let me just find that page quick. So, like I said, we're born in these various planets, and there could have like a sun in Aries right here, and then they could have a moon, which would probably be sun, moon, which could be like a Capricorn moon, which totally makes your personality different versus then just concentrating just on the sun sign. But there are 3 different signs that are really mainly important, possibly 4. I mean, there's a total of 5 personal planets that actually represents who you are, but I think one of the most important to me is actually not your sun sign, but actually more so your house placements. The sun sign represents yourself and your path of what you have to achieve. The moon sign is actually who you really are, in my opinion, and deep inside, and what you are like in person. So, like, I have a Capricorn sun, typically that represents traditions, restrictions, but since I have a Gemini moon, which makes me a lot more sporadic, little bit random and unpredictable, that represents the moon, because I'm more chatty catty, and I'm more fidgety. And then there's also the Ascendant, which basically, wherever time you were born, I think it's divided in by, for every 2 hours of the 24 hours a day, you'd be a Pacific sign. For me, I'm a Gemini, so my Ascendant, which represents the self, the outer self, how you sort of are, but also represents, depending on the placements. But I'd say actually the moon is probably one of the more important signs of who you are. And actually, that's the same with Vedic Astrology. They believe that too. And the Ascendant, which they agree with that too. Versus the sun sign, it's not basically what you're comfortable. It's about what you're trying to achieve. Your sun sign is basically what you're trying to achieve. So, like I said, everything is divided in 12 houses, 12 signs, all spread out in particular planets. And plus, with all these houses, there's different cusps where the sign lays in. See, it's very layered. It's almost complicated, and I think it might be hard to explain without a few graphics. But for now, let's just get down to the basics here. I have my new laptop, so I know this is a long video, but hopefully it doesn't matter because I have a better computer, so it could render faster. Okay, so like I said, there's 12 different signs. You might as well just go over that now. And yeah, I can remember these. So there's the first Aries, spring. Aries is the ram. So Aries is the ram, and the symbol is this. It's ram horns. And then the next sign is Taurus. Hopefully you can see this. Taurus the bull. And that looks sort of like a cow with horns, basically. I hope you can see that. It might be a little small. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, 3 and Gemini. Which is funny, because even though I'm a Capricorn, I have a lot of Gemini placements. And what does Gemini represent? Twins. which I am a twin. And Gemini, the twins. And they just look like the number 2 symbol. The next one is Cancer. The funny thing, a lot of my family is Cancer, ironically. My sister, my parents, and one of my good buddies are Cancers. And which is the opposite side of Capricorn, and typically that's considered the marriage placement, or guys where you just get right away. Even though they're opposite signs, it doesn't mean that they aren't compatible. Usually it means they are. Cancer, the crab. And that looks like a big 69. Why is that way? I don't know. Maybe they like cunning lists, can't tell you. And the next is Leo, the lion. And that just looks like a circle with a squiggly. And then 6, Virgo, the Virgin. And that represents... The ironically thing about Virgin is their symbol is a lot like Scorpios. And I guess in some ways they can be a little bit Scorpionic because they're so intense in perfection. And which is ironic because Virgo's a virgin, and then Scorpio represents the most sexual signs ever. And according to my buddy, he's a Virgo too, and he claims to get, Scorpios. And Libra is the balance, or the scales. And I think that's just scales, right? Yeah, well, sort of. I don't know what the hell that's... I don't know what these symbols are. I think it's Latin, actually, I think. But they make sense. And then Scorpio. Although, even though I'm a Capricorn, I attract a lot of Scorpio lovers. And because I think it's because, even though I don't have any Scorpio placements aside from my Pluto, which I wouldn't say is my most important sign, but because I have an 8th house sun and Mercury in 8th house, according to this other site, they're your kindred spirits. Their energy is similar to Scorpios, although they're not as comfortable, in my opinion, being the Scorpio in intensity. They usually are more reactive with it. Scorpios that are actually born in the sign are a bit more comfortable with themselves. And it's funny because according there's also new zodiac now. I can't remember on the top of my head, but I'll have to bring that up. I'll have to look that up. I can't remember. That's just stupid of me. I should remember it though. And it's just with an M with a stinger. Oh, Ophiuchus, which is sort of like the healer type. I think it was like a Ophiuchus, and I could be pronouncing it wrong, was like a centaur. And basically he's like in between Scorpio and Sagittarius. In a way, he's sort of a bit like Chiron, a little bit, which I'll explain more what that Pacific asteroid is. And then Sagittarius, probably the most difficult one to spell. The centaur. Actually, they call him the archer, but whatever. He's a centaur too. And he represents by the bow and arrow. And the next is Capricorn. Stuffy old Capricorn. He's like your grandparent. The sea goat. So now there's an interesting thing about Capricorns. A lot of people think it's a goat. Yes, it is, but the real animal that represents it is a sea goat. So it has a fish-like bottom and a animal-like head, and that sort of represents a sign. So what's Capricorn's symbol? Ugh. Yeah, the Capricorn is probably one of the most difficult symbols to remember. It looks like a weird thing with something coming out of its ass or something. Seagull. And 11, Aquarius, age of Aquarius. I think right now we're in the age of, almost in Aquarius, I think. Aquarius, the water bearer. Which is odd because the symbol for Aquarius looks like water, which in reality it's actually an air sign, which I'll talk about the elements as well. So Aquarius is the water bearer. Apologies for my bad handwriting. It's sort of hard to write in this. And 12, Pisces the fish, which represents because the Aquarius carries the last sign, which is Pisces. I hope I spelled that right. I think I spelled it wrong. Yeah. Pisces the fish. The Jesus types, supposedly. And the representation is a weird fish-like fin coming together. Because they like to kiss. And they go. So yeah, I hope you can see this on the camera. There's 12 different signs. And that's a lot of information to garble down. And this video is probably going to end up being like 30 to 40 minutes. I apologize for that too. So there's 4 different elements. So I'm sorry I'm going to have to erase this. I don't know if anyone's going to stay this long watching this video. It's really hard to cut these short though. So there's 4 different elements. In my opinion, every zodiac sign should actually have its own specific element, because I think like Sagittarius is considered, there's a different element, but I can't remember on the top of my head, but, oh, ether I think, but we'll digress. So there's 4 different elements. There's fire. I'm making up these symbols, but I think triangle represents fire, because it looks like a flame. And there's water. I think circle represents water. Because like Bruce Lee said, be like water in a cup. And then there's earth. And my symbol for that is square. It's like a rock. And then there's air. And air, I don't know what symbol I should make of air. Maybe a line. Yeah, I'll just do a line. I'm making this up, but it's just easier to remember for some people, in my opinion. I think there might be a specific symbol for air, but let me look here quick. I don't think there is. Whatever. I would like something like really simple that represents air. I don't think a line does justice. I know how to make air. We're going to make air, or pentagon, or hectagons, sexagon, whatever. That represents it better. Not totally fluid, but has some fluidity. Okay, so those are the 4 symbols. And there are 3 signs that fall under the fire type is Aries, the Ram, Leo, Sagittarius. I'm going to just brief this. And water types, Cancer, and Scorpio, and Pisces. Earth types is Taurus, Capricorn, call it Cappy, and Virgo. Sorry, Virgo should actually be up there. Whatever. Virgo. And air, Gemini, and Libra, and Aquarius. Aqua. So I want to erase this because there's the reason why I have it in this particular order, because it's easier to regurgitate. And I'll show you why soon. Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Alright, so I'm giving you a lot of information. I don't know, based off your comments or whatever, maybe it might be easier if, who knows, maybe one day I might like redo and scrap all this and then make it simpler. But we'll see. I'm new at this teaching kind of thing. I don't think I'm that good at it. But I need to do it because I'm inspired. So based on these elements, each sign, 12 divided by 4 is what? Divided by 4 elements is 3. So the 3 different signs represent a particular energy level. Sorry, I have my book with me. Each of these signs have a specific element. So there is number 1, element energy type. There is cardinal, like the red bird. There is fixed signs, and 3, there's mutable. So what does each of these represent? So cardinal signs are specifically the leaders. I don't know if I can call them the leaders, maybe the pioneers. They have a lot of energy, they're willing to take control. Doesn't mean that they're more powerful, not necessarily, it's just that they're really good at leading the other signs. And who leads the other signs is, I'll put the number 1. So a cardinal sign. The fire type, Aries is the cardinal sign. So I'll put a C there. That'll make sense. Cardinal sign. And what does cardinal represent? The cardinal sign is, like I said, the leader. They have energy. And the next cardinal sign is Cancer. they usually lead, like, within their family, I'd say, supposedly. Aries is more about blazing trails. And Cappy, they are pioneers probably in business, I'd say. And Libra, they're good at keeping everyone balanced. Diplomats, that's what they're known as. So, fixed signs. Fixed signs are the ones that never change. They're stubborn. They know what it is, and they'll just go straight through it and bowl through you. And speaking of bowl, Taurus is a fixed sign. They're very fixed in their behavior. It's not good to get an angry bull angry. Why? Because they'll just charge right through. Almost like a Scorpio. A Leo is another fixed sign. The fixed signs, I feel like, are actually very stable. Unlike cardinal signs, they aren't as stable. They're changey a little bit. They have a little bit of fixed sign and mutable inside, I'd say. So another fixed sign, obviously, is Scorpio. Why? Because they obsess, supposedly. Which is sort of strange because they're set in their ways, but their ways is very complex. So whatever they believe, even though it's complex, you'll be surprised because sometimes you think what is simple with them, it's not. So another fixed sign is Aquarius. Aquariuses are the genius types, scientists. They're like the folks that just lay in a bunch of garbage and they could make like an invention out of it in that chaos. So the mutable signs, these are the changey folks. They could either go which way. And it's not necessarily they like to run under the other signs, but they're willing to support. And without support, you have nothing. You don't have a business. You can have a leader all you want, but if you don't have the people that are willing to follow you, then you're SOL too. Sagittarius is immutable. They are really flaky. I mean, they love to travel, go everywhere. In relationships, they're a little bit like Gemini too, where you can't corner them. They like their freedom. So we'll go off with Gemini. These are like me, the twins, the sporadic people. They say one thing, they switch their minds and go off the next. I can perfectly represent a Gemini. And the next one is Virgos Immutable. They're a little bit like the Gemini, a little bit, but they're a lot more fixated. They're more the healer types. And they like to work under people. And healing more is specific like support. And then Pisces, obviously mutable, because they're like water. They go whatever which way, whatever the currents take them. Okay. So, you got that down, right? But wait, there's more. And I don't know if any of you can actually remember any of this stuff, but we'll see if people say they hate my communication skills. Yeah, but maybe I'll improve. Who knows? And I'm trying to do a lot of this from my head. And when it's from my head, sometimes it's sporadic. Okay. Okay, with that, what was I going to bring up? So, shit. I lost my train of thought. Ugh. Okay, the planets now. Like I said, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I meant 10 planets. People are probably thinking, what the hell? Why do you trust this guy? He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. I think I do in my head, but it's hard to communicate it. That's the difficulty with me. And it has to do with some of my birth chart. My Ascendant opposes my Saturn, what makes it difficult to talk. And plus I have a combustion sun. Okay, so there are 9 planets. Sun. Everybody has 10 planets within their birth chart. And each of these planets are like characters or roles that they play. Signs are basically what you're comfortable with. It's just natural. The planets add a little flavor to your personality. So sun. But it's not. But it could be. Okay, sun. I want to put these in my own words. What is the sun? Self. Purpose. Willpower. I'm doing this all from my head now, folks. I'm describing it in my own words. And I'll describe more about it later in the future. Sun, self, purpose, willpower, and sometimes it represents the father. This is the soul sign. Like if you're saying, what's your sign? People are talking about your sun sign. But in my opinion, I think the moon sign is more important, in my opinion. Because the sun is what you'll get to once you die, basically. Your life purpose. But who you are and how you react to the world is your moon sign. So the moon looks like a moon. Might as well put numbers 1, 2. The moon is your emotions and your mother sometimes. And I would say who you are really in person. I'll say who you are really. The next thing is the ascendant, which is not really a planet, so in a way there's 11 different points. The ascendant is basically a point of where you're born, and sometimes it claims to represent your outer self. You know, I'm like a Gemini, but I don't think I look any... I mean, I might have the nerdy glasses like a Gemini, but because my ascendant conjuncts my moon, it gives me more of a moony, round face. And I'm more emotional, which usually Geminis aren't. But Gemini moons are pretty unstable, so... And being in a moon, it's not totally comfortable. It's like wishy-washy. But usually, typically, Geminis are long, lanky, and... Yeah. But I'll put the ascendant down. Ascendant is how you take in the world. And what I mean by that, your impressions. These are the main 3 biggies of yourself. That's why I'm doing it. Although in this book they only show the planets, but I'm talking about ascendant because I think it's like at least one of the 2 most important. How you take in the world or see the world, I'd say. Although the thing about the ascendant, it's sort of weird because the ascendant is not exactly the public persona. That's the MC. That's the midheaven. So I guess I'll write that down after, but that's not as important, so I'll write that later. So basically there's a public persona and the ascendant is how you breathe in, or how you go out and explore the world, basically. Like if you're a Gemini, you want to seek knowledge. If you're a Scorpio, you want to seek intensity. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to cover. This might be an hour-long video. Sorry. Okay. So, the Mercury. Mercury is... looks like a... It almost looks like a Venus sign, but it's not. Mercury is considered androgynous, so it makes sense. Almost like a Taurus head. Mercury. Those are your thoughts, how you think. Basically, how you think. Sometimes, in most cases, it represents intelligence. In my opinion, one of the most intelligent people are actually Gemini Mercuries. My sister's a Gemini Mercury. I'm not saying Gemini Moon. Moons is like with feelings, like how you react, intellect. They can take in a lot of shit. I'd say Scorpio are probably really good at perception. That's what they say. So, sorry, this was supposed to say Mercury. And the next one is Venus, how you love, basically. Love. I'll do that. Love. Relationships. Beauty. And 6. You know what? I'm forgetting something. I'm supposed to talk about Sun, Moon, Ascendant. This represents Mercury, and I meant Venus. Venus is the planet. We're talking about planets here. So Venus. And then 6, Mars. Mars is about action. It's the male sign. So Mars. Angry. That what makes you angry, of how you express anger. Okay. The next one. Jupiter. Looks like a 4. Jupiter is your luck and wealth, I'd say sometimes too. And after Mars, like I said, Sun, Moon, Ascendant, Mercury, Venus. I'm going to put a line down here. Why? Because I think through these are your most important planets. The other ones are more of the social planets. What I mean by social, it doesn't represent your personality. So this is like what your social conscious, like how you are out in society. And the next one, I'm not going to have enough room to put all these, is scary Saturn. Everyone hates Saturn. The mature adult. Stuff that's difficult. I think Saturn and Pluto and Neptune are one of the difficultest planets to deal with. Sometimes Moon too. So Saturn. Restrictions. limitations, and then sometimes bad luck, but lessons learned. So basically, Saturn and Jupiter are like the good cop, bad cop. Jupiter's the good cop, Saturn's the bad cop. And Uranus, I'm not talking about Uranus because it's hairy. I don't want to talk about it. Looks like a 3. I'm putting crazy down. Unpredictable. Genius, where your genius at. So I'm going to have enough room. I hope you can see it. I'll write a little smaller. And then there's Neptune. Oops. I did the symbol wrong. This was Neptune. And Uranus looks more like this. It almost looks like the... it almost looks like the Neptune scythe that Neptune would use. Like in The Little Mermaid. So Neptune represents illusions. Illusions and delusions. And addictions sometimes. I don't know if you ever watched Sailor Moon, but some of the personalities are pretty accurate. So the last planet is Pluto. Looks like a person, basically. Represents destruction. What destroys you. Obsessions. I'd say addictions you have a little bit less control over. Obsession is where it's your intensity. And like I said, it represents destruction and power too. And remember, I'm saying these all from my head. There's more into it, and I'll probably talk about each planet more specifically, maybe, if I want to in the future. Okay, so these are the personal planets are really like what you want to pay more attention to, and these are the social and outer. The outer sensi, they call it, and Sailor Moon. These are the personal. So I'm going to add on top. I wouldn't say it's probably next to somewhat important, but there's also a thing called MC. I'll put a check mark. MC is the midheaven. And then there's a descendant, which I'll describe more about it later. But in the quick way, midheaven is how others perceive you. Like socially, like online. And I think that's pretty true. It doesn't mean who you are, it's how others perceive you. The ascendant is more of who you really are. And pretty much, I think it means reputation too. Rep. And another one I wanted to add, they don't really talk about, I don't know if they talk about in this, but I think the asteroids, there's like 4 different asteroids, Vesta and Chiron, but I'll explain more about those other planets later, but I think Chiron, which is the wounded healer, is also an important planet, and it represents your wounds. It's important to me because I'm an ascendant. I heard that Chiron relates to severe bullying or some sort of wound that they can't treat themselves, but they can help others. And I think it's actually really representative in people's charts. And I consider it a personal planet almost. So Chiron is the wounds, how you heal. I hope you can see these. You might not be able to. I apologize. Just make sure your video's in HD. Let me look up the symbol for Chiron. Every asteroid and planet has a specific sign. Yeah, of course, the key. Duh. Forgot. That's stupid. The key. Looks like a key. It's cool. It's a cool symbol. And that's key you have to unlock. Okay, so of all this information, let me regurgitate this. Whenever you're born at a specific time and a specific day, everyone has certain planets that are in their chart, which is in 12 different sections. So, like I said, all these planets add on to your character of who you are. But remember now, so each sun sign, each moon sign can be in 12 different signs. So someone could say, hey, what's your sign? Nope, that's not right. Nope, that's wrong, because they're only seeing a part of who you are, not like the holistically of who you are. And I think I'll do one more lesson, which will be after I erase all this. To add on to all of these several different informations, these planets, these asteroids, these specific points of your chart. So we all are born with different planets in our chart of different signs. And to add on to that, to make things more complicated, is there's 12 different houses. There's 12 different signs and 12 different houses. And I'll put in my own opinion what houses are. I think houses are important. Sometimes they may be important more than the signs and the planets. Obviously, the ones that include the personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Chiron, those signs are more important, but the house also actually adds a more different flavor. And in my opinion, what do the house represents? I think, speaking from my own experience, like I have a sun in 8th house, even though it's considered scorpionic, I think the houses are the challenges, and we're not totally comfortable with it. Like sexuality, my own power, inheritance, which the 8th house sign represents. It's things I struggle with. And that's what I believe that the houses represents, is the struggle. And it does add some personality to it, but like when you say someone's scorpionic or plutonic, a Scorpio is more in charge of itself. The planet represents of how you are, how you interact with the world, basically. So you can be scorpionic, but also your experiences can be your world, basically. So if you're a plutonic person, you have control of the world. And the house is basically your life path, in my opinion, of what you have to become to defeat, or sometimes it defeats you, or it's the challenge that you have to deal with. So the first house is, which represents by Aries, is identity. I'm going to go through this quickly. The second house is Taurus house, which represents security. And there's a lot more stuff to this stuff, but I'm just giving you a generic intro. Lesson 101. Astrology 101. So the third house, I'll put houses. In the end, I'll make a chart that sort of looks like mine, so you guys can understand what the heck all I'm talking about. So identity, security. Third house represents intellectual components, or the mind, so I'll put mind. Fourth house, family. Sorry, the third house represents with Gemini and Virgo. The fourth house is with family, i.e. Cancer. And the fifth house is also Leo, which is sort of represents your creativity, I'd say. Sixth house, what is that? Work, Virgo. Work or health issues. Seventh, others, relationships. Eighth house, like I said, is scorpionic. It's death. It has to do with death, inheritance. I actually sort of agree with it. I was watching a video the other day. They didn't really believe in it, but I mean, I have inheritance stuff with my own self. So I think it's a particular issue that's important. So death, inheritance, secrets, and secrets, and what other things? Intensity, I'd say. Intense moments. I'm somewhat familiar. I'm mainly an 8th house, 7th house type, and 6th house type person, so I have a little bit of those. I can explain a little bit about it. 9th house, travel. It's related to Jupiter. 8th house is, like I said, scorpionic. Travel, culture, I'd say, too. Sometimes wisdom, I'd say, which is different from the mind. 10th house relates to work, but it's more about your reputation at large. In a way, it's a lot like the MC, which is the MC, basically. And the first house identity is the AC, which is the Ascendant. So the 11th house is wishes and social causes. So if you have like 11th house moon, you're probably a very social person, extrovert. You like to do many Aquarius things, like with groups, basically. Groups. And the last house, mysteries. What's different from secrets and mysteries is the 8th house, in my explanation, is prevalent, but with the mysteries, you may never find out. Hidden. You may never find out what your hidden talents are. Mysteries, hidden talents, and I'd say addictions too. Okay, so there are 12 different houses. Each house represents a specific struggle, that I'd say. So let me delete this and I'll explain to everything. Maybe I'll make a chart example so all this shit can actually make sense. Excuse my language. Okay, I'm gonna make my chart so things make more sense. So, like I said, we were born at a Pacific time. I was born January 11th, 1987 at 3:30 p.m. in South Korea, Jeollabuk-do. So typically you can go online. I like Astro Theme and Astro.com, and I think it's called Astro Charts with a hyphen, Astro-Charts. And then there's another one that I like too. But you can basically go online to get your charts. Cafe Astrology is okay, but I think it actually is astrosoftware.com, I think. But basically you can just go on Google. You can go on Google, go to Astro Theme, and then type in your chart here. South Florida Astrology is pretty good too. You can go there too. But I mainly use Astro Theme and Astro.com. Astro Wind's pretty good too. That one explains all your planets and what elements are dominant. Astro Wind is good. I think it's called Astro Matrix. Yeah, Astro Matrix. That's a good one too. This guy, whoever developed the site, it's really good. You can click everything and see what things represent, like your identity, your conscious, and all that stuff. It's a really cool site. Astromatrix.org. I love the site too. So okay, so back to this now. I can't remember specific places where my chart is, but let me just do this. Okay, so this is your natal chart, your birth chart. So the first point, Ascendant. This is the Ascendant. Mine's in Gemini, so my Gemini would actually go in this area here. And then my Capricorn's over here, which Capricorn symbol is this weird symbol. Looks like a 7-6. So my Ascendant, and then my Sun's here. So you'll see the Sun, the little circle. And my Moon's up here too, at that point. So there's a Capricorn, so Gemini, and then I could just write the Cancer along here. Sorry, it looks more like boobs. That's okay. Cancer, Gemini, Leo, Libra. See, I really have no planets in these other ones back here. Scorpio and Sagittarius, which is on my descendant, Capricorn, and Aquarius, and Pisces, Aries. So this is an example. So these are the signs. And like I said, my Sun's there, my Moon's in Gemini, which you can see it's in this section right here. So, and this represents the first house. So each house is also a particular set. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So there's houses inside that too. So with the wheel, see, the wheel shows the signs, and then within it, it shows the house placements. Depending on what chart you use, there's a whole bunch of different charts. There's whole signs, a whole bunch. And usually whole signs I heard was good. I think the most common, I can't remember exactly what the most common was called. There's also a standard, which I won't go into the science of that. So each sign is split in a specifically equal set, but with the houses, now they could be different sizes. So you can have a big 1 house or a small 8th house, see? And it might be a little confusing because I didn't really draw it correctly, but this is what the whole chart looks like. So my Moon's here, so, and then my Mercury's here too. Combustion. And I'll tell you the terms actually for each sign. The most common between those signs is like the conjunction. So my Capricorn conjuncts my Mercury, so that represents. So now this gets even more convoluted. I bet you guys probably turn off this video right now because you ain't understanding any of this shit and you're overwhelmed. But your chart, once you figure out all the placements, I might as well just put all the placements in. So my Jupiter's up here somewhere, and I know my Uranus is on here. Maybe I can actually remember them now this time. And my Neptune's up here too. And my Venus love sign's down here somewhere. And my Scorpio, my Pluto's right here too. Okay, so when you look at like all these symbols, should just actually put these all in different colors. So moon, and the sun right here, the Mercury right here. Now it's turned black, oops. I'll just do this so you can actually see. All these planets create a specific chart pattern. So, my sun conjuncts my Mercury, meaning they're close together. So, what does that mean? Conjunction. And I promise I think this will be the last lesson, and I won't make a video for a while, because I'm like explaining like everything to understand a chart. So, conjunction represents by that symbol. And conjunctions basically are, it's embedded in your personality. Does it mean good? Not necessarily, because sometimes it can be bad. Like, a moon touching a Pluto is pretty bad because it means you're intense, very unstable, and scary, I'd say. So there's conjunction. And then there's trine. These are the easy flowing aspects. And I'll actually make them different colors. So conjunction will be black. Trine will be green. Sorry for my lack of preparedness. Then conjunction I'm going to make black. Trine is green. Squares I'll make red, because these are the difficult aspects. And then sextiles, which are pretty easy too, so I'll just make it purple. Now there's a lot more other mathematical equations that you could put in, like from the top of my head. Oh, sorry, and then there's opposition too, which is a really hard aspect too, so I want to use a different color for that. I'll make that orange. You can't see it. My brother used all these crayons and you can't. Oppositions, and I'll actually do inconjunctions too. So in conjunction looks like quincux. I'll make that. Those are some stressful aspects too. Okay. So what does this all mean? I won't get in the mathematical formula because I think I'll eventually, if this video flops, I might just redo everything and explain it, try it a little bit better if I can. And if I can't, I guess, oh well. But at least I try. So let me actually write what each thing means. Conjunctions. I'm going to do it from my head. Conjunctions basically can be stressful, or they can be integrated, is a better word. Integrated into your personality. Trines. Natural. Square. Difficulties. Sextiles. Talents. Oppositions. It requires balance. And inconjunctions. Mixed bag. And those are all in my own words. Okay, so I have a conjunction between my Sun and my Mercury. You probably can't see it. And that means it's integrated. So I have a Sun and Mercury, meaning I'm Quicksilver, but I'm not very good at listening. That's a part of an accent. So example of a trine. I have a trine. I'm going to put Mars right here. I have a Mars in Aries, and that trines my Venus. That's supposed to be an easy aspect, so it should be green. It trines my Venus. And this is a conjunction circle. What does trines mean? It's natural. So between my Mars, Aries, and Venus in Sagittarius means I don't have any troubles expressing my love, basically, or passion, or beauty. Sometimes it's considered a sexy aspect, but more like the girl or boy next type. Okay, another stressful aspect for me, let me write this, is my Saturn. My Saturn. So, my moon opposes my Saturn. And that's hard. Meaning my feelings are against my responsibilities. And I have low confidence sometimes, that's what it means. So oppositions. So my moon opposes my Saturn right here, and I'm making that orange. That makes it difficult. Low confidence. Yeah, I'll just make it short and sweet. But it's a challenge I have to overcome. So, a square. I have a square in Jupiter. It's called a T-square. Some people don't consider the ascendant part of a T-square, but usually T-squares, it looks like a T-square, which is like a half of a square, or i.e. a triangle. So squares are hard. So I have challenges between my Jupiter and my Saturn. And that means that I tend to overdo it, but I also feel constrained and limited. So versus my moon and Saturn, I need to require to balance my emotions or my health or my mind and my responsibilities. That requires a balance. On the other hand, between my Jupiter in 10th house, between my persona of how others perceive me or my reputation, that's like totally not consynced with my responsibilities. How I want to perceive myself does not fit. And those are like very hard to deal with. But according to most people, a lot of people consider grand trines. I actually like grand trines. I think they're actually really important. My girlfriend's had that, and what I think that means is that they're very balanced people, and they know how to be social. Everything comes easy, and they don't even realize it. I don't have a grand trine, so I'm not that special, unfortunately. But I do have a yod, which I'll bring up a little later. So, the square, which is even worse when there's actually a grand square, which is this. I don't have that either. My friend Link does. His life sucks, and it's a struggle. But I know I've seen some celebrities that have squares. According to another buddy of mine, he claims that there's nothing that he can do. I disagree. If you have a grand trine, you can overcome it, and hell, you actually might be able to even overcome challenges and become successful, wealthy, prosperous than people that just have to deal with a square, like me. So squares are very difficult, but without difficulties, you can't get shit done. You can't make a jewel into gold, basically. Or you can't make a garnet into a really beautiful garnet. You have to wear it down in order to become like a fine wine, basically. That's what squares are about. And then there's sextiles. I have a sextile with my Neptune and Mercury. That means I have a talent between my Neptune and my Pluto, which means I have a talent social-wise to express myself creatively. But the problem with that, I may have the skills to do it, but the way I do it, it gives me a lot of tension because it inconjuncts my moon. That's considered a yod. There's different patterns, which I'll talk about later too. Not now. Don't have time now. But the yods are considered a special talent that you need to work on, meaning I got to work on my moon in Gemini, meaning I got to work on how I express myself, my moods, basically. It's a challenge. And I think that's it. I don't know if any of this made any sense. I'll still load the video, see what views I get. I'm not going to delete it, but hey, you live and you learn. I was in the mood for it, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you could actually understand any of it. I hope you could understand some of this. I might be blocking the thing too, but we'll see. You live and you learn. And I apologize if things were all sporadic. I wish I can be a better communicator. And then maybe if I keep these videos, I'll do better. Okay, so this is my first Astrology 101 class video. I hope you gained something from it. I hope it wasn't too boring. I hope you could understand a little bit of it. But yeah, I like to study people's birth charts. If anyone's interested, you can give me a message. I'll explain a little bit of what I find based off of what I see. Like I said, astrology is considered a pseudoscience. I consider it more about understanding people's personality. I believe energy levels do affect people to an extent, like the moon does affect the ocean. But even though science doesn't believe it, I guess that's okay too, because you can believe in science all you want, but you gotta have faith in something. And I feel like astrology, it's good to practice skepticism, but also an open mind. And as a Capricorn, 8th house sun, I like to share some of this knowledge I know that I've been studying over the years. Again, this is AstroLogicStarSystems. If you have any questions, just feel free to leave any comments below this video. And I should make a saying. Here's a good one. This is positive. We are all stars in this world. So go forward. The end.